Race day. The races ran. Not all to plan. First 3 kilometres in 12:20, next kilometres in 6 minutes. Halfway mark 33:20, final 3 kilometres in 12:30. The second half in 31 minutes. A stitch from around 3 kilometres to 9 or 10 kilometres. Time equals 64 minutes. Heart rate at the end 194 beats per minute, with my average heart rate being 183 beats per minute. It dropped around under 100 by 25 minutes. Pleased that I pushed on through the stitch. I ran 3.5 kilometres to Bondi Junction in late afternoon, all uphill. That took 18 minutes. Time to dissect my race, work out what was good, what was bad, and what needs changing. Firstly, gut feeling. Opportunity missed, disappointed. Let's break it down. I woke at 6 a.m, a good night's sleep, comfy bed, quiet. Slept straight through, 6 hours sleep. Sports Plus for breakfast at 6:10 a.m. and 1 banana. Drove to the train station and caught train to Martin Place. Felt good, pumped but not too much. I felt ready. Amp Fitness team photo at the fountain. Another banana, 7:35. Head off to starting group about 7:55, another banana, and toilet stop. Realised I'd had no water since last night. Stood in starting group for 50 minutes waiting for the start. I did stretching during this time. Not as much as I would have liked, space was cramped, but sufficient amount. I got a bad start. Stuck behind an older guy who was shuffling along, and there were no brakes in the line. I had to wait for one to open. Perhaps be better starting towards the side. Once I got my brake, I pushed hard to make up for the hold up at the start. By the time I hit King's Cross Tunnel, I was pleased with my pace and rhythm. Welcome everyone, it is episode 12 of Running with Heart. I am Andrew Neville and I'm currently on mission 231. Aiming to run the entire Larapinta Trail in May 2022 as part of the Sonda Monster and the West Max Running Festival. And I'm doing it all for the Heart Foundation. That little passage is from race day of Sitter Surf in 2009. I'm going to stop it. I don't need to dissect the whole race. We've talked about it before. The important part to look at is getting stuck behind an older guy who was shuffling along as there were no brakes in the line and I had to wait for one to open. Then after that, I started running faster, trying to catch up for the time I'd lost. I mentioned the bananas I'd had at the start. At the end of my dissection of the race, this is my what I've learned from it, so I think. I definitely need to work on my race pace. I need to be in control of that. I need to know how fast I'm running when backing off the speed. I should not have blown out to 5 minutes a kilometre pace. My line running worked on and focused on so much over the last 12 months, and I nailed it beautifully in Dubbo. But what happened on the big day? More hill work would be beneficial for next year's race. And that's it, isn't it? There is next year. Take a positive out of everything is a belief of mine. What's my positive this time? I did it. I ran my own race. Not to plan, but I still ran it. So I'm looking for excuses as to what went wrong in the race. I've talked about the banana as well. I've put their gut feeling is the banana. I always have 2 with my cereal and 1 on the way to Hyde Park. This year I had 2 at Hyde Park within 90 minutes of running. But I've had a banana right before running in training, but not when running at that pace. Is it a combination? Looking for excuses as to what went wrong. And in hindsight, looking 12 years back, and I guess putting to practice what I've learned since then, is it all came down to patience. Getting stuck behind the older guy and then trying to make up for lost time. And since that day, patience is something that's become a big part of my training, a part of my running journey, and a part of race day. And it's probably saved me on numerous occasions as well from blowing out in races. Why are we talking about patience this week in episode 12 of Running with Heart? Well, since we last met in the podcast studio and we spoke on episode 11, or I spoke on episode 11, we've had a slight speed bump in the Mission 231 journey, an injury. Headed out. I was going to say I was doing last Saturday's run. Well, I was, I guess. Unfortunately, I only got 600 meters into the run when I went over on my ankle, rolling it badly. Couldn't put weight on it. Had to be helped by my wife Monique to hobble home the 600 metres, and rice it for the afternoon. I'll read what I've recorded in my journal. It's been a really tough week, very frustrating week, which I'm going to elaborate on as we go through today's podcast. But I've had to draw on the patience that I learned back in 2009. That's the whole point. I've had to draw on that this week. So I set out for a 60-minute hill session. Really looking forward to it. This is last Saturday, the 21st of August. Really looking forward to that hill session. Then I've put in my journal straight up. I headed out. Luckily, Monique was with me. Running down the first hill, 600 metres into the run, I went over on my ankle. The pain was excruciating. It had me on my back. I felt like it should have cracked and be hanging off at a weird angle. That's my foot. And that's exactly what I was expecting. The thing that really, I've been angry, I've been annoyed, I've been frustrated this week. I keep looking back at heading out on that run. And you ask the question, why? Why did it happen? Why did it have to happen? My running has gone so well. My training has been going so well. This is week 20 I'm now in, so that was coming to the end of week 19. So after 18 weeks and 5 days of training, I'd only missed one run from my program, which I've never had a conversion rate like that. I've squeezed them in. I've run in the dark after work. I've run in the dark on weekends after we've been away, back before we were in lockdown. I've been up early to squeeze them. I've squeezed them in at lunch times. Wherever I could find the time, I've squeezed them in, and to only miss one run I was really proud of. And since then, we're up to 7 days today, I've missed 6 runs. Obviously not by choice. But I think that's what was my first frustration. I think I wrote that here in my journal. Had me on my back. I couldn't wait there. It was a long, slow walk home with Monique supporting me. I felt bad as I'd ruined her run. Monique was heading out for her own run. I was annoyed as I only missed one run in 19 weeks to this point. I was fearful of what it meant to the Mission 231 program and my 100 kilometres I was planning to run in a few weeks. I spent the afternoon ricing it. Rest, ice, compression and elevation. So that was, I think, my first thought as I went down. But the hill that I was running down, I've run 1,000 times, down 1,000 times. And my foot just caught the edge of a rocky outcrop, one that I've stepped on numerous times, and it just rolled outwards. There was no crack, didn't hear the crack or a crack. But because of the gradient of the hill, it's very hard to suddenly just pull up. And so I couldn't put weight on, so I'm hopping down this hill at rapid speed on my left leg, trying to stop, and then just throw myself on the ground and on my back and holding onto my leg, screaming in pain. And I really believed I was going to look down at the end of my foot and just end of my leg and just see my foot flopping. I sort of caught the ankle, like the side of the foot movement when it went over, and it went to an angle it shouldn't have gone to without snapping. But as I said, there was no crack, and the pain was excruciating, as I mentioned in my journal. Monique came down the hill, asked if I was okay, asked what she could do to help. I was determined in my stubbornness to get up and continue with my run. I said, it's fine, let's go, I'll do this, and went to get up and couldn't. And then I knew that my run, my streak, I guess, in a sense, of only having missed one run was about to end 600 metres into the run. And so I had the long, painful walk back home, where then I riced it. I knew it needed to be checked, and I knew I needed to go to emergency to have it checked. And if we weren't in the COVID situation that we are, I probably would have gone straight away. But I've been in situations like this before, where I've had injuries and miraculously they've pretty much cured overnight. People who know me from the touch field will remember a certain calf injury with a lump the size or bigger than a tennis ball, probably a softball, sticking out the side of my calf at the end of the game one night. Hospital, crutches, and then next day I was walking around and it was gone. Still can't explain what happened that day, but I was hoping that would happen again and I could avoid risking going to emergency and risking being in a situation where someone with COVID may be in that same room. When I got up on the Sunday morning, it still wasn't good. I'll read from my journal. So this is Sunday the 22nd. The first thing I've written in my journal is rest day, and then I've written my first long run missed in 19 weeks. Right ankle still no good. I can't walk on it. Frown. There's a frowny face I've drawn. Bit the bullet and went to hospital. X-rays cleared me of a fracture. It's too swollen to determine if there's ligament damage. Compression sleeve and crutches. A quiet arvo on the couch. I watched some Pillars clips. Pillars is a trail running app or company, and a Lara Pinter clip. It keeps myself focused on the goal. It helped pick me up a bit too. After dinner, I did my stretching session and a modified resistance training session. It felt good to do something. It felt good to do weights. So I've gone to the hospital. I've been cleared. The x-rays cleared me initially of a fracture, which is relief, but the ankle's too swollen to know if there's ligament damage, and I'm on rest. I can't run. I don't know how long for at this point in time. And so the frustration setting in, and each day that goes past, I'm thinking I've missed another run. And I think that what gets annoying and where my patience gets tested in this situation is because the training had been going so well up until this point. I was eyeing off doing a 100-kilometre run in a couple of weeks before entries open for the Sonda Monster. One, it's a requirement. Two, it gives me an idea of where I'm at. And if I could run it in September like I was planning, it then gives me a good 8 months of training to build from that into the 231 kilometres that's required at the Sonda Monster. So that's in the back of my head. My training's gone so well. What's this going to mean to at 100 Ks and moving forward? How long am I going to be off my feet? What do I then have to do to rebuild any sort of fitness I'll lose depending on how long I'm off my feet? Rebuild the strength in the ligaments, in the stability muscles of the ankle, the leg, the tightness of the other muscles in my leg that are compensating for how I'm walking, how I'm hobbling, how I'm on the crutches. This is all going through my head on the Sunday. And again, I've written in my journal, right ankle started to feel better before bed. I could start to put some weight on it whilst using crutches to help support. So good signs there. And again, it's a bit more of me looking for the way out, the quick way out, and forgetting about I've got to be patient like I should have been back in 2009 at City Surf. We'll come back to the rest of the week very shortly. I want to share some other stories from my running journals over the years where I've talked about patience. And then I'll come back in a lesson I've actually written way back in 2010, I think, or it could be 2008, 2010. A lesson I need to apply to myself now. Thursday, the 29th of July, 2010. There is only 10 days remaining until City Surf. I've been meaning to write in my journal for weeks, but seem to be either too busy or too tired by the time I get to bed. Patience is the key at the moment. Patience. Hopefully I will explain it tomorrow. I'm tired and I need sleep. And then the next entry is Monday the 2nd of August, so a few days later. There is now only 6 days remaining until City Surf 2010. I can't believe it. It doesn't feel like it. It seems like it's only time for the registrations to open. But no, it is in fact 6 days away. Am I ready? Physically, yes. Mentally, no. 1 month ago, I ran the Gold Coast Half Marathon in a time exceeding my expectations. This had followed months and months of lead-up work, all in preparation for the half marathon and City Surf. I had 5 weeks of City Surf preparation between the half and the City Surf. My program was broken into 1 week recovery, 3 weeks solid training, and 1 week tapering. I completed the week's recovery phase as planned and followed that up with a solid first week out of the 3 main weeks. In this week, I completed all planned sessions, climaxing with a 15-kilometre run. This was 2 weeks ago. Then a cough I'd had started threatening to go to my chest, so I cut all runs from the program. This left stretching, weights, and some plyometrics. I then went for a short 2.7-kilometre run yesterday, my first run in 2 weeks. It just feels like I haven't done a long run in ages, so mentally I'm unprepared, but physically I know I'm ready. It's convincing my mind to believe that it's where I'm finding it hard. Over the past 2 weeks I felt like running, but I've had to restrain myself to ensure my cough doesn't get any worse. It's taken a lot of patience. Luckily, it's something I've developed through my half marathon training, something I believe has made me a better runner. Can my patience continue for another 6 days? Can I convince my head I'm ready? Only time will tell. And I read that and I think now in this position, and I'm recording this on the Friday after injuring myself last Saturday, so it's only been the 6 days. I'm asking myself, can I have the patience to keep holding off going for a run to make sure I don't injure it further? How long can the patience last? I don't know how long it's got to last as well. And then I've mentioned it again, the patience, where another Citisurf 2011 this time. Kept moving with, this is at the start line, I kept moving with both dynamic and static stretching. I had a checkered run in the first 4 kilometres with people in the way, and I found it frustrating, the slower speeds on the downhills and uphills due to people being in front. I remained patient. I ran 2 kilometres in 9 minutes and then 4 kilometres in 18. I was 23 seconds per kilometre outside goal time. So again, another example of learning the patience, implementing the patience. In the countless marathons I've done since beginning marathon running, and I guess ultras as well, you have to be patient in a marathon. If you go out too hard, you hit the wall early. The race doesn't go to plan if that happens. So patience is something you've got to implement in your marathon race day. You've got to know when to hold back, especially when other runners around you go out at a quicker pace. You've got to stick to your own pace, your own gun, so to speak, your own racing plan. And it all comes back to patience. It's a really important attribute to have as a runner, but also in life. And so it's something, I'm going to say I used to be an impatient person. I still am an impatient person. But through my running, I'm learning. I'm learning to be more patient. I'm learning to implement that. But I have to be honest and say that it is being tested at the moment, and it's certainly been tested this week. Let's go back to this week's journal. And then I'll share with that lesson that I wrote many years ago that I need to apply to myself these days. Monday the 23rd of August. I can walk a bit on my injured ankle today. Happy with the improvement overnight. By day's end, it felt tired and sore. Ice, elevation and compression in the evening. And then we move on to the next day. Tuesday, doing more on the ankle. It's a bit puffed up and tired in the evening. I could do stretches that I couldn't do on Sunday. There's a positive. Wednesday, the 25th of August. Ankle has felt better again today. I'm using one crutch during an outdoor PT sessions. I walked maybe 800 metres in one of the sessions. I completed Be Active and small group PT Zoom classes, completing the exercises. And then, as of yesterday, Thursday, in the morning, the outside of my right foot, lower down, is sore. Did I do too much yesterday? And that's the last thing I've written. I've got to catch up to date on my journal writing for this week. I've got to share the lesson with you as well. So, look, it all comes back to patience. I'm not giving up, I can assure you of that. Whatever time frame I have to sit on the sideline of the running trails, I'm not giving up. I'm doing cross training. I did a cardio session on Wednesday night. By cardio, I mean shadow boxing, battle rope with dumbbells, because the battle ropes were at my PT studio. So pretending the dumbbells were battle ropes, using them, trying to get my heart rate up. I laid on my back and cycled my legs as if I was on a bike. That was a great workout for the quads. Been doing core work, stretching, and I've done weight sessions as well for the upper body, and using the lower body in ways that doesn't put pressure on the ankle. So still moving ahead with the training. I'm not sitting around doing nothing. Can't afford to do that with what I'm trying to train for. And I have to remember this lesson that I wrote back in April 2010, 11 years ago. Training programs need to be flexible. Hurdles are going to pop up along the way in everyone's life. It may be family related, work, injury, sickness. The list could go on and on. It's important to realize when you begin a program that when the unexpected happens and you are forced to miss a session or even a week of training, don't dwell on it. As I'm reading this, I've got a voice in my head saying, "Are you listening, Andrew? Are you listening?" Adjust and move on. That's adjust the program. Move forward. It's a waste of physical and mental energy focusing on the past and the sessions you've missed. Put the energy to good use and focus on the plan in front of you. Make every session count. Keep your eyes on the destination. Let it motivate you when the wheels start to fall off and the program isn't going to plan. Remember, flexibility is the key. Adjust, refocus, move forward. It's a good lesson that I wrote to myself back in 2010, and I'm pleased to share it today. And as I said, I can hear this voice inside my head going, "Are you listening, Andrew? You listen to your own words." And you could almost read that again, putting Andrew at the end of the sentences. Training programs need to be flexible, Andrew. Hurdles are going to pop up along the way in everyone's life, Andrew. It may be family related, work, injury. Are you listening, Andrew? Injury, sickness, the list could go on and on. It's important to realize when you begin a program that when the unexpected happens, you are forced to miss a session or even a week of training. Don't dwell on it, Andrew. Adjust and move on, Andrew. Move forward, Andrew. You get the idea. Andrew's learning his own lessons. So, obviously on the training front, as we recap, not much has happened this week besides cross training. Bit of cardio training, doing some shadow boxing, battle rope, done core session, done weights and stretching. Done visualization. It was really good watching the Lara Pinta Trail that someone had hiked and put up on YouTube last week. Went for about 20 minutes. The scenery was breathtaking. I can't wait to experience it for myself when I run the Sonda Monster next year. And I'll be doing more of that probably over the weekend, doing some visualization to stay positive. It's amazing how quickly your mentally strong, your mental strength can drop when you miss a few of the physical sessions, knowing that you've missed a few runs, even though you've done 19 weeks of training beforehand, just missing a week and you start to have the doubts raise in your head. And it makes me realise how true it is that, I've mentioned it before in the podcast, that Australian ultra runner Lucy Bartholomew has said that when training for ultras, you can physically train for 50Ks, and after that, it all becomes mental. It's all about mental strength. And maybe that's the lesson I've got to take from this last week. Maybe it's a lesson I need to learn. As I was questioning, what I'd done already in the program in terms of 8 hours. Should I have gone that long in training? Should it be shorter? Should it be more back-to-back runs? Questioning the physical side of the program and how I could adjust it, how I could tweak it to have more benefit from it. But it's the mental side I need to work on more. And that's what I found coming out of that 8 hour. Like, the 8 hours was awesome, felt good the whole way. Well, not good the whole way, but it was doable. You felt you were going to do it. You knew you were going to do it. And even afterwards, like, I wasn't even sore. Like, you knew you had run that distance, the 54Ks, but you weren't walking around in agony and moping, so to speak, about the soreness. But still, I didn't have the confidence in my head that I thought I would after running 8 hours. So perhaps this past week and the injury that's occurred has given me a chance to actually sit down, gives me a chance to sit down and look at my training and make sure there's mental training in there. And that comes back to the visualization that I do anyway, but maybe I need to put more focus on it and more focus on being mentally strong after 50Ks. Instead of looking at ways to improve physically after 50Ks, I need to look at ways I can improve mentally after running 50Ks. Food for thought for me and for you. Again, everyone, thank you for the continued support. Thank you for the best wishes and get wells that have come in this week when it's been on social media about my injury. It will come good. It is coming good. I've just got to learn to be patient. And while I'm doing that, I am, in my heart, running with heart. Thanks for listening, everyone.